Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to update on the process Boris Johnson has embarked on in order to set himself up above the law and how it isn't quite going according to plan. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So when I'm talking about Boris Johnson wanting to set himself up above the law, I don't mean criminal law. You know, people calling for him, one day to end up facing prison time. I mean, he may well have committed criminal offences in recent years. We will not know because the Conservatives under both Theresa May and Boris Johnson have shut down police and National Crime Agency attempts to investigate. So he's effectively already set himself up above the law there, as long as he isn't silly enough to leave any real evidence that a journalist could happen across, that is. But he can still fall foul of administrative law, and indeed frequently does. Nothing happens, of course, of material benefit because, ministers found to have deliberately acted unlawfully should resign. Yes. Even an inadvertent breach has sometimes been a resigning matter. Depends how serious. But not for Johnson and his cronies. But still, it's bothersome for him to have to face a court case where the court then tells him that he or his ministers have acted unlawfully. These investigations are not so straightforward to shut down. See, you can lean on investigators of criminal activities by threatening their funding, but breaches of administrative law are brought by affected citizens via the process of judicial review. Most recently, we heard of the Good Law Project taking the government, or the Department for Health and Social Care specifically, to court over non-publication of their corrupt PPE contracts. The court found that the Health Secretary had acted unlawfully, and Boris Johnson then told Parliament that the contracts were now all there and able to be viewed by anyone. But this was a lie, another breach of the ministerial code that should see him resign. And because the contracts still aren't there, and this is evidenced in the court order which says so, the government have been taken to court again in an attempt to get them to finally comply. Boris Johnson can be doing without all of this, so he has sought to limit judicial review. You could see the benefits to him in doing so. In the case, for example, of his unlawful prorogation of Parliament in 2019. The High Court in England couldn't rule on the matter because of a historical cock-up that means that English judges found the case to be non-justiciable. That is to say, it wasn't a matter that they could judge. But no such impediment exists in Scottish law, and so the Court of Session, which is the equivalent court in Scotland, found against the government. The Supreme Court were then able to judge, and so that was that knackered for Johnson. But he presumably could see the way forward. He says, well, the way it works in the High Court, that was the way to go. Because if you change the system so that the courts can't actually hear cases against the government, if you curtail judicial review, then it will make no difference whether he or his ministers break the law or not. Won't even matter if there's loads of evidence. Irrelevant. Judges will just have to look at it and go, well, we can't judge on this matter. If they aren't able to decide on those cases, you'll never get court orders proclaiming him to be a crook. So even if you've got all the evidence that can be reported in the media, it doesn't matter. Brilliant. So we can set up a commission to investigate the application of judicial review, get them to say, oh yeah, you need to do all these changes, and he's in the clear. And that's exactly what he did. Naturally, he won't have left it to chance either. He will have absolutely have tried to set up that commission in his favour. Now, their report came out last week. It doesn't seem to be the green lights to a no consequence law breaking that Boris Johnson has been hoping for. Because even for prominent constitutional legal commentator like David Alan Green, he noted that the government must be unhappy with the report because they're going to try again. They're now launching a public consultation to try and get the result they want. So legal experts wouldn't tell them it was fine to be above the law. So let's try members of the public, they've obviously thought. And absolutely, if the expert approach isn't going to get you what you want an inexpert approach. And if you want an inexpert approach to a subject, certainly you seek out the views of people with absolutely zero expertise, like the public. And if they want even less expertise, they could try asking their own MPs. Now, as with everything else, the government aren't just going to accept this. If they want to stop judges telling them that they've broken the law just because they've broken the law, and the law that they made and pretend to care about, then they will persist. This report doesn't tell the government that they can't implement the changes they want. It only tells them they shouldn't. To be clear, this isn't my reading of the report. I can't read this report. My background is in astrophysics, not constitutional law. I'm taking that from another expert, Paul Daly. It offers some advice for a few reforms that nobody who cares about government accountability seems to get excited about. I'm aware of fears for reform of the Supreme Court in an attempt to neuter it regarding holding the government to account on matters of law. What the government want is to change it to be very much like the US Supreme Court, which is politically appointed, and you will get decisions based on partisan politics. But in terms of this report specifically, this is about judicial review. I'm not seeing comments that suggest it is offering ways for the government to get away with law breaking. They have quashed government complaints that people are taking the piss with judicial reviews, because that was one line of attack from the government. Oh, people are just bringing up so many now. They bring it just to cause trouble. They're bringing up these vexatious judicial reviews, and it's wasting so much public money. We just need to curtail it. Of course, this argument would hold more water if it weren't for the fact that the government are frequently found to have acted unlawfully. Because if we were seeing a whole succession of cases brought against the government by wealthy political opponents, but the cases were constantly failing, then they might have a point. But this is not occurring. The report points out that the number of judicial reviews being brought isn't really different compared to the mid-90s, when the Conservatives under a less insane leader were last in power. So if it stayed fairly stable for several decades under both Labour and Conservatives, there isn't really an argument there. Especially as the report also states clearly that meritless cases are not generally allowed to proceed in significant numbers. So the authors are not only making it clear that there's no problem with the current system of judicial review, but also that it is being applied sensibly by judges in the system. So what the report is strong evidence for the use of judicial review. Strong evidence that it is working well as it currently exists. There are proposals for tweaks here and there, but nothing that the government can use as a pretext for wholesale reform. On the contrary, implementing significant reforms after this report would be a very bad look for the government. But, like I said, the report is very much trying to persuade the government of the benefits of judicial review. It is not stating that they cannot legislate to kneecap it. So I don't read either the reports nor, more importantly, the expert reviews of the report as good news as such. It's a bit like the delay to the policing bill that I talked about recently. I see it as the government have hit a red light, but will intend to proceed anyway, albeit a little bit slower. If the government have the ability to legislate for the changes they want, then they will do so. They just need to fabricate some justification for doing it. If they couldn't get it from legal experts, then they will trust in the ignorance of the people. Usually works well for them. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.